Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to the next episode of Young Man's Perspective. This is your co-host, Spencer.
And Marcus.
Today we are going to be talking about music. And you may be questioning, what exactly does music have to do with a young man's perspective? Well, music goes back far, far throughout the ages, and it's always had an influence on our lives in one form or another. So certain types of music can really aid to the quality of life that you have, while others can be taken away. So what are your thoughts, Marcus?
I think a critical factor to developing good character is to have what I would call an aroma of character, meaning things that influence you in a good way and strive to make you better, right? And music can do both for you. It can set a good tone and it can set a bad tone depending on what type of music you're listening to. We're not going to sit here and say, don't listen to genre X, right? Because it's not a typical genre that's wrong. It's individual songs. Right? Did the songs that you're listening to promote violence, sexual misconduct, swearing, and a negative lifestyle, right? That's what you have to look at when you're deciding what type of music you want to listen to. So I think it's critical to establish that aroma of character. And music is a large part that influences society. You know, I saw a recent post that said 90% of students listen to music 70% of the time they do homework. And that's a large amount of time with a large amount of people. And so music definitely has an influence on your character and your mental state. So establishing that, and at least I would say, guarding yourself against bad music and promoting yourself to listen to good music is totally critical.
Yeah, I would totally agree. So going off of this, this is something that can be seen as very subjective. Mm-hmm. So what would you maybe use past experience? Maybe you had a negative emotion after listening to a certain song, and maybe it took you a while to identify. Do you have any?
I would say for me, swearing was something that I would never have done, and then listening to music, for me it was rap music. I've always had a bad relationship with rap music, and the more I listened to it, the more I began to be influenced by the entire culture of it, and it really started to take a negative toll on my character, and I began to use words I would never use phrases I would never use, act in a way that was totally against who I was. And that's just a testament to how powerful music really is. And rap might not be your vice, but it really does come down to at what point is the music you're listening to influencing you in a negative way.
Yeah, so going off of that, though, what would your thoughts be on something like classical music, though? Like something that's more like a traditional piece that sometimes often won't even have words, but it's more of a melody.
So for me, that's not my music taste, right? And so I wouldn't say I would listen to it 100% of the time. But for me, it sets a tone, I guess I would say, of relaxation. It's like good study music, I would say. That I would never listen to it, amp myself up or for pure enjoyment. It was just kind of more something I would listen to fill the gaps. I don't think there's anything wrong with classical music, but it isn't my taste, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, I think when it comes down to it, there's kind of three genres that you got to watch out for. And I know we said we weren't going to bash any genres. We're not. It's just a lot of the songs contained in those genres. So, rap is, quite heavily promotes, I wouldn't even almost say violence, but a lot of degrading. It does do violence, yes. But I would say the overarching theme is the amount of degrading of women, and, chase the bag and not what you really want to do with your life. And just that overarching theme seems more, there is violence, don't get me wrong, but it seems more of an overall degrading of just human life in general. You shoot your enemies or whoever it is in the thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think rap aims to promote, I would say, in general, violence and sexual misconduct, right? And those are the two things that are most prevalent in our society.
Well, songs and rap. There are rappers that that are not like NF. His stuff can be kind of heavy, but he's not necessarily trying to promote violence. It's like a therapy for him. But that's just a smaller example. A lot of rap artists do, but there are some that are not necessarily promoting violence. It's just it's one genre to be cautious of. because it's something that's extremely common within said genre.
Yeah, and that that's kind of what we're going back to is we're not going to say don't listen to rap, right? Because it's not all raps, it's not all rappers, it's not all of the entire genre, but it's one that contains a lot of it. And awareness of the statistics is critical to developing good character. And I think the establishment of recognizing, like, hey, rap has a culture known to be more prone to bringing those things out of people, and that's just where wisdom comes in, which is another key component that we'll get on in another episode.
And I would say one of the other two genres, and I know this is kind of was a personal bias for me, was rock or metal. Those are ones that are generally less degrading, but generally very violent. Mm-hmm. And it took me a little while to get the hang of it, because like at first I was against anything kind of heavy. I didn't want to do that, and then as I got into it, especially because it's good workout music, at least for me personally, so it's hard to totally turn it off. But like when I first got into it, it can definitely change your behavior to be a little bit more violent. And it wasn't really that long for me to get over it, but they also have a plethora of words in there that they use as well. So that's just another another genre I would watch for, because a lot of songs in there could be that way as well.
Yeah. So, if we're creating excuses, I guess, or reasons to not listen to those two genres, what would you say are some genres that contain better music?
To be honest, like we said, classical, like it's more of a classical, relaxing piece. But if you're looking for something to kind of like amp you up, and I know a lot of people, like, it's very 50-50. It's like it's split down the middle. Either you're all for this genre or you hate this genre. I would have to say would be like your EDM, techno, your more recent music, because that stuff can be some good workout music, and a lot of times it doesn't really have any lyrics, so it's not really promoting anything. It just can be very
energizing.
Yeah, it could be energizing, but like I said, you either hate it or you love it with that genre. There is no in between.
Oh, absolutely not. And I think here's the thing: like we say, we can't condemn all of rap and all of metal and rock, but at the same time, we can't promote all of pop or all of country and all of those things. Again, it's a song by song basis, and this has to be something you can limit your standard of what's acceptable to anything, right? My advice is keep swearing to a minimum, and here's why. Not only does it create this environment of not trashy, but generally when a person cusses on a consistent basis, they're perceived to be that way. And if you want to be super successful in business and in life, people having that perception about you is a bad thing, right? So limit songs that promote swearing, limit songs that promote, again, sexual misconduct. And I get that, we don't want to get into like all of, the super sexual things just yet, but there has to be a limit to how far you go with it. And, music tends to promote, the hookup culture, which is, again, a bad thing. And if you're going to go about doing that and listening to that type of music, you really have to be mentally aware of that. Yeah, you might really enjoy the song or really enjoy the chorus, but what is the artist or the song promoting as a whole? And that's something that you really have to take a look at and really guard yourself against, because, in all of our early episodes, we talked about lying begins with something small and grows into something bigger. Your friends, they're not supporting you 100% in the way that you need it. It leads to things down the road. And it's the same thing with music. If you begin to accept one song, it's going to go to 2 songs, 3 songs, and then you're going to end up listening to this genre and these musics and these songs that are promoting a bad character in you, and it's going to grow and manifest itself later, and you're going to end up being just like the people in those songs. And that's what's so hard for people to sometimes understand.
Yeah, and my sister, I can't get into too much detail, but she's kind of had some experience with this as well, is a certain artist that she was fond of. She's done some dating recently, and it's the artist that she's been looking into is very satanic. And it's something that you don't really see first glance, like surface level, but the more and more you dig into it, and then it's like, she kind of realized, like, hey, this is some creepy stuff. I don't want to be a part of this. And she's working on that right now, but stuff comes out of what you put in. I kind of botched that. But if you're absorbing different music styles, it's going to come out in the way you act and the way you think and what you say. So as basically as you were already saying. So if you're and another thing though about the swearing thing that I find that a lot of people try to argue with me against, and it comes across basically proving my point, is we'll get in an argument and usually the argument is about swearing means you don't have as great a vocabulary. That's what I tell people. And it's true, because if you can't think of something better to describe your feelings, you do not have a very great vocabulary. You're not very expressive.
100%.
So they'll get mad and they'll start arguing with me with swear words. It's like, you're just proving my point. So that was a little side tangent, but it's just very important to, recognize and analyze, that's not the word, what you're putting into your brain, because it will ultimately exhibit itself in your outward actions.
100%. And we'll do another episode on movies, but it's kind of the same thing where you consume something, and what that something that you consume is going to eventually be let out in the form of your actions and words. But we're kind of talking about music in a very negative way, but it's the foot of the same coin. It's the other side of the same coin. When you use music to influence you in a good way, it is a monumental tool to promote good character, just in the same way that listening to bad music does the opposite. So when you find a song that, one, promotes, for example, every song almost always has a love theme to it, at least to some extent, right? So something that promotes long-lasting good love, meaning it's genuine from the heart without malice intentions. Two, things that promote sexuality in a positive way that's not degrading to one gender or degrading to the act itself. And three, that promotes self-restraint and good character, because anything that promotes violence as a necessary means to bring about something is incorrect. The only time that violence is acceptable character-wise, and I think you can agree with me, is in self-defense, which is not done with the intention of hurting someone, right? So any type of music that promotes negligent violence towards anybody or anything automatically has to be put in the category of no listening, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one of the things you got to be careful of too is, what are you using the music for? People can listen to it for entertainment, but depending on what songs come on, like, what does the music ultimately mean to you? What is it for? What is the end goal for the music? How does it? And that's one of the things you got to analyze, because in some cases it can be okay to maybe listen to some rap songs if that's not really something that bothers you, because sometimes it can be a release for some people in terms of they have all this anger pent up, and maybe it's not the best, but that's kind of how they feel. It's like the embodiment of how you feel. And like for me, I listen to kind of heavier songs like when I'm working out, and that's just kind of it hypes you up, but it depends on what you're using the song for.
Yeah, for me, I don't know why. Maybe I'm just an emotional dude, but I listen to music oftentimes to set a tone. Like, if I'm in a bad mood, I'll listen to something to get me out of it, right? And if I'm super energetic, I'll listen to something a little bit slower to calm me down. It's just kind of a mood setter for me. And, that's been an advantage for me because I've learned how to use music to influence me in a good way, right? If I'm swinging on the pendulum one way and it's influencing me in a bad way, I'll kind of tone it back and listen to the opposite, right? So music is a tool. It's a great tool to set tones, to set emotions, to change things, but it can be used in a malice way, and it can be used to promote bad things, but it can also be used to promote good things. So ultimately, the way that you're influencing yourself is something that you have to decide where to draw that line, right? For me personally, it's swearing, sexual misconduct, and violence. Those three things in any song I will never listen to or promote. And here's the other thing. You really have to think about this. If an artist is singing, promoting these things, it's his personal opinion on those things, right? So, like, why would you support someone that promotes those things? It's always a question I ask myself.
And I would say not even going that far, but it's his, as you said, it's his personal opinion. So why would you let his personal opinion affect yours? So you don't have to, maybe the song is catchy, that's why you're going along with it, but subtly it will be influencing you. So why would you let something, especially if it's something that you don't agree with on a normal premise? Like, I mean, we both listen to rap here, and we both disagree with what most of the stuff says, and it's that artist's opinion. But occasionally I'm sure we've listened to a song anyway, despite the fact that that's their opinion and we disagree with that.
Yeah, 100%, and it comes from personal experience ultimately, which is why we're doing this, because we've made those mistakes, right? But for me, I find this to be a good thing, right? When you constantly promote yourself listening to good music, and then you go back to listening what you used to do, it turns you off even more from that genre, right? Because oftentimes when you're entangled and the emotions are there and you want to listen to that genre, you want to listen to that song that you love the beat so much, but when you get away from it and then you come back to it, you're like, why would I listen to that? Why would I ever do that? And it's kind of appalling, but that's the subtlety of how good music does, and it does influence you. So ultimately, guys, as we kind of wrap this one up, just remember that what you consume is what you're going to put out. And the more that you promote and influence yourself and consume good quality music that promotes good character and good morals, you will then be able to demonstrate those good morals in actions, and vice versa. So guys, as we conclude this episode, please like and comment on this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the 4 links in our description to our Instagram, Twitch, our Patreon, and what was the last one? Our YouTube, because there's
YouTube and Discord.
Yeah, and our free Discord channel for you guys. We made this to interact with you guys. Like we said in our introduction, we're here to create a community of people that are striving to become better. So as we conclude this one, guys, please share this video. Help someone that's struggling a little bit to kind of give a little bit of moral support, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
All right, stay safe.